Let's begin by dismantling the biggest illusion, the idea of the lone tree. A forest during its daily life is not a crowd of individuals competing ruthlessly for sunlight and soil. That's an old, outdated Darwinian view. The groundbreaking work of scientists like Dr. Suzanne Somert has revealed a far more cooperative and connected truth. Beneath your feet, in the dark, damp soil, exists the wood wide web, a miraculous network of mycorrhiza fungi. These fungal threads, called hyphae, form symbiotic relationships with the roots of nearly every tree and plant. They weave through the earth, connecting tree to tree, species to species, creating a neural network of staggering complexity. This isn't just a physical connection, it's a trading floor, communication hub, and a social security system. The trees trade precious resources through this network. A towering, sun-drenched mother tree, a Douglas fir, for instance, with excess sugar from photosynthesis, will shunt those carbohydrates through the fungal network to a shaded seedling struggling to survive, even if that seedling is of a different species. It's not out of altruism in a human sense, but out of calculated ecosystem investment. That seedling represents future stability, a future partner in resource exchange, and a future node in the network that strengthens the whole community against disturbance. But the currency isn't just sugar. In exchange for carbon, the fungi provide what the tree cannot easily gather: water and vital nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, mined from the soil with incredible efficiency. This silent barter is the foundational economy of the forest, a constant, bustling exchange that fuels life. A forest during a time of abundance is a capitalist dream of perfect market efficiency, but one governed by rules of mutual benefit rather than pure competition. Furthermore, this network allows for direct communication. When a tree is attacked, say, by a voracious insect like a bark beetle or a leaf-munching caterpillar, it doesn't suffer in silence. It releases chemical signals into the air and, more importantly, pumps warning signals through the fungal network to its neighbors. Those neighboring trees, upon receiving the alert, immediately begin producing defensive chemicals in their leaves, making themselves toxic or unpalatable before the invaders even arrive. It's an early warning system of military precision, evolved over millennia. This means a forest, during an insect outbreak, is a place of frantic, invisible signaling, a biochemical arms race where trees talk to each other about threats. Imagine standing in a grove where every tree is subtly whispering prepare for attack to its allies, and you're simply unaware of the conversation. This interconnectedness challenges our very definition of an individual. Where does one tree end and another begin? If they are sharing resources, warning each other of danger, and supporting the young, are they not parts of a larger, singular organism? The forest during its quiet moments is engaged in a constant, low-volume chatter, a biological internet with data packets of carbon, nitrogen, and chemical warnings flowing at the speed of plant biology, holding the entire community in a delicate, living balance. Now, let's zoom out from the subterranean web to the vertical battlefield, the canopy. A forest during the day is the scene of the greatest silent competition on Earth, the fight for light. This is where the metaphor of the canopy crown becomes a brutal reality. Every leaf is a solar panel, and the arrangement of branches is a strategic master plan developed over a tree's lifetime. Trees don't just grow, they architect their growth based on the light gaps available. They practice a form of crown shyness, where the uppermost branches of certain species, like some dipterocarps or black mangroves, avoid touching each other, creating mesmerizing, puzzle-like channels of empty space in the canopy. Scientists debate why to prevent abrasion from wind-blown branches, to minimize the spread of leaf-eating insects, or perhaps to optimize light capture for all. This creates a stunning visual effect from above, as if the forest has meticulously mapped its own boundaries. But this shyness has its limits. A forest during a storm or after a tree fall is a place of sudden opportunity and ruthless colonization. When a giant elder falls, it creates a light gap, tearing a hole in the green roof. This event triggers an explosion of activity. The forest floor, previously in deep shade, is flooded with photons. This is the equivalent of a gold rush. Dormant seeds in the soil bank, some that have waited decades for this moment, suddenly germinate. Fast-growing, light-hungry pioneer species, like raspberries, certain fast-growing trees, and vigorous herbs sprint upwards trying to claim the space. Meanwhile, the surrounding trees, the established giants, immediately sense the change in light patterns. They will extend lateral branches, diverting massive resources to grow sideways into the gap, attempting to claim the new territory. This race is a matter of life, death, and legacy. The forest during this phase is a dynamic, aggressive real estate market. But the canopy is more than a battleground. It's a layered metropolis, from the emergent giants that pierce the sky to the dense main canopy, the understory of smaller trees and tall shrubs, down to the shrub layer and forest floor. Each stratum has its own microclimate, its own resident species, its own rules. The temperature, humidity, wind speed, and light quality change dramatically from top to bottom. This vertical stratification creates countless niches, which is why tropical rainforests, with their immense canopy height and complexity, harbor more than half the world's species. A toucan lives its entire life in the high canopy, never descending to the shadowy floor. A jaguar prowls the dim understory. Countless insects, frogs, and epiphytes, plants that grow on other plants, exist in the mid-levels. A forest during the midday sun is thus a series of stacked worlds, each with its own dramas, from the sun-drenched eagle's nest to the perpetually damp, decaying world of the fungi and detritivores below. The energy flow is a cascade. Sunlight captured by the canopy fuels the entire system. As leaves, fruits, and eventually whole trees die and fall, becoming the nutrient base for the next generation, their energy trickling down through the food web in a continuous, life-giving waterfall of biomass. Shift your perspective now from the vibrant green above to the deceptive stillness of the forest floor. A forest during the night or in the deep shade reveals its true nature as a system built on decay and relentless recycling. Here, the primary currency is not light, but death. The leaf litter, fallen logs, and decaying organic matter are not a graveyard. They are the engine room. This is the domain of the decomposers, the unsung heroes without which the forest would choke on its own waste. Fungal mycelium, the same network that connects trees, also acts as a digestive tract. It secretes powerful enzymes that break down tough lignin and cellulose in wood, turning a fallen giant into a spongy, nutrient-rich mass. Invertebrates like springtails, mites, and earthworms fragment the material, increasing surface area for microbial attack. Bacteria complete the job, releasing inorganic nutrients back into the soil, making them available for root and fungal uptake. A single rotting log is a bustling city of millions of organisms, each playing a part in deconstruction. This process of decomposition is what closes the nutrient loop. The forest, during its decay cycle, is the ultimate sustainable economy, a zero-waste system where every output becomes an input. But the floor is also a theater of extreme adaptation. With less than 2% of sunlight reaching the ground in a dense rainforest, plants have evolved spectacular strategies to survive. Some, like the ghost pipe or Indian pipe, have given up photosynthesis entirely. They are mycoheterotrophs, parasites that tap directly into the fungal network, stealing carbon from the trees connected to it. Others, like the infamous Rafflesia, are endoparasites, living inside vine tissues for years before erupting in a monstrous, foul-smelling flower to attract pollinating flies. A forest during its dark hours is where these strange, almost alien life forms thrive. It's also a landscape of memory and time. The soil is an archive. Pollen grains preserved in sediment layers tell the story of the forests past its climate, its dominant species, its fires, and its recoveries. Tree rings are diaries, recording years of drought as narrow bands, years of plenty as wide ones, and even events like volcanic eruptions that dimmed the sun globally. A cross-section of an old-growth tree is a history book written in cellulose. Furthermore, the very topography of the forest floor is shaped by life and time. Nurse logs, the decaying trunks of fallen elders, become linear nurseries, with rows of seedlings growing along their length, feeding on the released nutrients. Over centuries, as the log completely rots away, it leaves behind a line of mature trees standing on stilts, their root systems oddly arched, tracing the ghostly outline of their long-vanished benefactor. A forest during a walk is a journey through time, where every mound, every line of trees tells a story of death nurturing life, a cycle that has spun continuously for thousands of years, creating a stability and resilience that is almost incomprehensible in our fast-paced human world. This brings us to the overarching intelligence of the forest, a concept that transcends mere instinct. A forest during a crisis, a prolonged drought, a raging fire, or a pestilence demonstrates behaviors that can only be described as collective problem solving. Let's take drought. When water becomes scarce, the network doesn't just break down, it reorganizes. Evidence suggests that older, larger hub trees, with their deeper, more extensive root systems, can draw water from deep aquifers and share it with shallower-rooted neighbors via the fungal connection. They are literally acting as communal wells, redistributing a critical resource to maintain the community's health and prevent widespread die-off. This hydraulic lift is a form of ecosystem-scale resilience. Now, consider fire. Many forests, like the ponderosa pine ecosystems or Australian eucalypt forests, are not just adapted to fire, they are dependent on it. A forest during a controlled, low-intensity fire is undergoing a renewal ritual. The heat opens serotinous cones, releasing seeds. It clears out dense underbrush, reducing competition for sunlight and nutrients for the survivors. It returns a pulse of minerals locked in biomass back to the soil in the form of ash. Some trees even communicate the threat of fire through the release of volatile compounds, priming their own and their neighbors' defenses. But the intelligence is also preemptive. Trees in fire-prone areas invest in thick, fire-resistant bark. They self-prune their lower branches to prevent fire from laddering up into the canopy. The forest, over evolutionary time, has learned to not just survive fire, but to use it. Perhaps the most profound intelligence is seen in succession the forest's life cycle after a major disturbance, like a clear-cut or a volcanic eruption. It doesn't regrow randomly. It follows a precise, repeatable script. First come the pioneer species, fast-growing, sun-loving grasses and shrubs that stabilize the soil and create microclimates. They are followed by fast-growing, short-lived trees. These pioneers shade the ground, enriching the soil with their litter. And in doing so, they create the cooler, moister, richer conditions necessary for the seeds of the climax species, the slow-growing, long-lived giants like oaks, redwoods, or mahoganies, to germinate and thrive. The pioneers essentially nurse the mature forest into being, only to be shaded out and replaced by it. A forest during recovery is executing a billion-year-old algorithm for ecosystem restoration. It has a memory and a goal to return to the complex, stable state of a mature ecosystem. This isn't a passive process. It's an active, directional march towards maximum biomass, biodiversity, and interconnection. It suggests that the forest as a superorganism has a kind of purpose to persist, to optimize, to become as resilient and robust as possible. This challenges our human-centric view of intelligence. It may not be conscious, calculative thought, but it is a profound, embedded wisdom, a set of roles and relationships encoded in genes and symbiotic partnerships that consistently solve complex environmental problems, manage resources, and ensure long-term survival. The forest thinks not with a brain but with every root tip, every fungal thread, and every chemical signal in the air. Finally, we must confront the most urgent, heartbreaking chapter, a forest during the Anthropocene, the age of human dominance. The delicate ancient systems we've described are now facing pressures they never evolved to handle. Deforestation for agriculture and logging doesn't just remove trees, it shreds the wood wide web, severs communication lines, and destroys the soil memory. It replaces a complex, cooperative network with a simple, often monocultural, and competitive one. A forest, during clear cutting, is a neural network being violently dissected. The fragmentation of forests into isolated patches creates islands that suffer from edge effects, increased wind, invasive species, and a loss of interior habitat specialists. The mother trees, the great hubs, are often the first to be felled, collapsing the social structure. But perhaps the most insidious threat is climate change. A forest during a warming world is thrown into a state of profound confusion. The synchronized relationships between trees and their pollinators, between seed dispersal and seasonal rains, are breaking down. Trees evolved for specific climate envelopes are now finding their homes becoming hotter, drier, or more prone to extreme storms. Phenology, the timing of biological events, is being scrambled. Buds may burst before the last frost. Flowers may bloom before their pollinators emerge. Furthermore, climate stress weakens trees, making them more susceptible to pests. Bark beetle outbreaks, once kept in check by cold winters, are now devastating millions of acres, turning green mountains into rust-colored graveyards. The forest during such an outbreak is a place of audible death, the sound of a million beetles chewing under bark, followed by an eerie silence. And yet, even here, we see glimpses of that ancient intelligence. Trees are migrating. Through seed dispersal, species are slowly moving up mountain slopes and towards the poles, seeking their preferred climate, but at a pace far too slow to match the current rate of change. Some trees are even showing rapid epigenetic adaptations, switching genes on or off in response to stress, a form of non-genetic memory that can be passed to offspring. But the question is one of scale and speed. Can a system that operates on century-long timescales adapt to changes happening in decades? Our role in this story is paradoxical. We are the cause of the disruption, but we are also the only beings capable of recognizing the forest's intrinsic value and intelligence. This brings us to a crucial realization: conserving forests is not just about saving pretty landscapes or charismatic animals. It is about preserving ancient living intelligences, vast carbon repositories, and the planet's primary engines of climate regulation and biodiversity. A forest, during a human-led restoration project, is a place of hope. When we replant with native species, when we protect old-growth corridors, when we practice sustainable forestry that mimics natural disturbance, we are not imposing our order. We are acting as midwives, facilitating the forest's own innate drive to heal itself. We are becoming, for the first time, a conscious part of its symbiotic network, not just an extractive force. So what now? You are no longer an outsider looking at a collection of trees. You are a witness to a living, breathing, thinking entity. This knowledge comes with responsibility. First, become a voice. Share this video. Talk about the wood wide web, about mother trees, about forest intelligence. Break the myth of the silent, passive forest. The more people who understand this, the harder it becomes to view forests as mere timber stands or land to be cleared. Second, support the right organization. Donate to or volunteer with groups dedicated to old-growth forest preservation, reforestation science, and indigenous land stewardship. Indigenous communities have understood this interconnectedness for millennia and are often the most effective guardians of these ecosystems. Third, make conscious consumer choices. Look for products with certifications like FSC, Forest Stewardship Council, that promote sustainable forestry. Reduce paper waste. Be mindful of the hidden deforestation in products like palm oil, soy, and certain meats. Finally, and most importantly, go and experience it. Find a forest, a real one if you can, or even a local wood. Sit quietly. Look at the canopy, feel the soil, smell the air. Now remember what's happening beneath you and around you. Try to perceive it, not as a scene, but as a conversation. You are in the presence of one of the oldest, wisest, and most vital forms of life on this planet. Your newfound understanding makes you a stakeholder. So I'm not just asking you to like and subscribe, though that helps this channel grow and spread these vital ideas. I am challenging you to change your perspective permanently and to act on it. Tell me in the comments, after learning this, what's the first thing you'll do differently? How will you carry this story of the forest forward? The network is calling. It's time we learn to listen and to respond.